Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Dylan.
And I'm Carrie, and we are two guys sharing conversations about our pursuit of life.
This podcast was born out of our relentless belief in helping others.
We are here to offer a glimpse into some of the hardest moments life has to offer.
Together, we're going to bring you the motivation and determination to build an attitude that is both relentless and tenacious. Welcome to the Relentless Pursuit. That was good. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back with the Relentless Pursuit, talking about health and emotional and physical health. That's what we're talking about today. We've got our heads screwed on straight, I promise. Just remember that not every day we're going to be serious and talk to you like we talked to you last time. Sometimes we are going to be a little weird and a little silly, and we're probably going to be assholes every once in a while. So there's that.
Yeah. I think that's kind of why we picked this one. We wanted to change it up for you guys. And what's ironic about this one is Dylan and I are similar in so many ways. And we are different in so many ways. And one of the ways that we are probably the most opposite from each other is the way we feel about these two. For me, physicality, when it comes to health, has always been my number one way of getting myself back on track. For Dylan, he is very emotional. A very emotional person.
You say that with such a negative connotation.
No, absolutely.
Oh,
You have that, it's a feminine quality, I think.
Okay.
No, Dylan's always been able to access his emotions, understand them, break them down, and then continue on forward with it. I'm not able to do that, or have not been able to do that in the past. I've worked on it for a long time. And I would definitely say over the last 2 years, it's something that I have really had to progress towards, and feel like I made big strides towards. But yeah, Dylan's definitely more the emotional health type of person, where he wants to get in a good emotional state. I definitely want to get more in the physical state, right? I mean, you would agree with that?
Oh yeah.
My whole mindset changes when I'm in a weight room, when I'm in a gym, when I'm running, when I'm doing whatever. It doesn't even have to be working out. It can be, I grew up on a small farm.
He picks things up and puts them down again.
Doing anything physical for me puts my mind at ease, allows my anxiety or depression, whatever it is, to kind of ebb for a while, so I can get a relief from that, for sure.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly talking to people. Like I get a lot of relief from discussing things with people, but it has to be on my own kind of wavelength for me. It's Carrie kind of knows that, like, when I'm in a place that I need to contemplate it on my own. And then I bounce it off him when I'm ready.
Which we are similar in that. It's just that we do it in two different modes.
Yeah.
Dylan does the I wouldn't say you retreat, but it's kind of that retreat in that he's like, I'm not going to talk to you for a little bit. I'm going to spend some time alone with myself and my thoughts. I'm the same way, but mine is more like, I'm not going to talk to you for a little bit. I'm going to spend some time away alone with my thoughts and the weight room. You know what I mean? I need to be doing something physical to be able to process that kind of stuff. And part of the problem I have with that, though, is when I get in the gym, I don't let the emotions come out sometimes. I just focus on being in the gym, So that's where I've tried to take some cues from Dylan in that, it's all right to spend a few minutes alone just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And thinking about stuff.
Yeah, thinking and stuff. That's my specialty.
Yeah.
That's all I need. I just need to think and stuff. I think I need to think about things that involve stuff, and I'm usually pretty good. So
yeah, and I'm the stupid one.
That's all you need. Yeah, he's the stupid one. I'm the fat one, right? We already had that discussion.
Well, first, to start this off, I think we need to talk about which one is more important. There are other people that have had this discussion. There are other people that have this debate. There are studies done on this. There's a lot that goes into this topic when it comes to which one is more beneficial, being emotionally healthy or being physically healthy, as it pertains to your day-to-day life. Every day in and day out, what are you doing? Which one's going to benefit you more? And, we both are on different sides of the coin, so we kind of wanted to let you guys see this discussion play out. Is there something you have to start off with, Dylan, or do you want me to go right into it?
Well, you're wrong, so that's the...
All right. Well, we'll see you guys later. That's all we've got for you today.
No, my position is really a balance. Obviously, my balance is a little bit more lenient or leaning towards emotional health, because I think overall in the long run, if you don't have control of your emotions and if you find a healthy balance with your emotions, you have the ability to think through all the situations in your life a lot more efficiently. That's my understanding. But I think the physical aspect is very important as well. The physical health is important because it biologically gives you a different set of hormones releasing.
Oh, right, the dopamine releasing.
Yeah,
right.
So you can't, for me, it's not all emotional. I don't think that's the end-all, be-all. I think you have to find the balance with the physical and the emotional, but I think the emotional has more, long-term effects on your health overall.
Right. And the only thing I would say to kind of contradict what you're talking about is the balance part. And I only say that because I think balance is something that we sometimes can misconstrue as we have to be even keel all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas for me personally, and you know this, like when I was really young, I was a temper. I was bad. I had a bad temper. I'd blow up. I'd go crazy. We've talked about this before, and you've seen it a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
What he has seen of me doing it in the last 8-9 years that we've been friends,
roughly. Actually longer. It's been like 12.
All right, it's been like 12. Ish. But what the few times he's seen it...
Do we have an anniversary?
No.
We don't have an anniversary.
The few times that he has seen it is... I mean, when you talk about percentages, is not even close to what I used to be like.
Yeah.
And Dylan and I have had this discussion before, where it's... the few times that Dylan has seen it, it's not even in comparison to what I used to be like for me. And, growing up, it was never I was in the middle of 5 children, so... Me throwing temper tantrums did not help the family dynamic. It just didn't. To the point to where, it was one of those things where I was kind of taught and told, really, to, you just got to go somewhere else. You've got to go figure this out on your own, which I took to mean it's not acceptable to have temper tantrums, which is a very common thing for kids when that happens. They're told, don't do that, don't do this, and they learn those things. What I came to learn was that it wasn't the temper tantrum that was the problem. It was the way in which I was expressing myself that was the problem. And that's what I mean by, us talking about having a balance with our emotional health, or having a balance with our emotions. I think it's okay to be unbalanced, but I think the key is knowing that be unbalanced in the right situation.
Right.
And to me, I feel like physical health is the correct way to do that, because let's be frank, physicality can be done in many different ways, being physical, and everybody should be doing it. Yeah. Everybody should be physical in some way. It is a very important thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I use my weightlifting for. That's what I use my running for. That's what I use the health aspect for. When I'm not able to do that, I find myself bottling things up for months on end, mm-hmm. and there's just no release. There's no outlet for it. Yeah. And that's a learned thing for me, and I understand everybody's different, but that's what makes me believe that physical health is the correct way to go, because your mind changes. The way you view things completely and totally changes when you are laying on the floor of the gym, sweating, huffing and puffing. Things just look different.
Yep.
And it's a way of just, kind of referencing back to what we talked about in the last episode is hitting that reset button on a daily basis. And it's an emotional level to where you're able to figure those things out. And that's what I think. To me, in order to get control of my emotional health, it's got to be through the physical health first.
Yeah, and for me, I grew up a lot differently. It's my story's a long story, and I think we'll get to that in further episodes. But for me, physical health has always been important in I think, a secondary manner in which I use my emotional health, my emotional mindset to say, hey, I want to be able to do this, and that's where I took the military, is like, doing a 10, 12, 14, 16 mile road march for the first time with all of this equipment, with 150 pounds of equipment. Like, I only did that because of my emotional mindset. I wanted to go through basic training. I wanted to go through different, air assault school. I wanted to go through all these different schools because I wanted to see if my mind could actually handle the overall rigors of what was being put in front of me. I knew overall that my physical, physically I could handle it, or
Sure.
I'd break. It didn't really matter to me, So, like, physically, I knew that what I was doing was physically good for me because it was,
Sure.
I was working for it. But at the beginning of it, it was all mental. It was all building my mental, mental hardness is what you'd call it, is my, maybe stubbornness.
Toughness.
Yeah,
whatever
mental toughness of
absolutely.
actually being able to say, yeah, this sucks. This, all of this pain is just really sucking right now, but I can handle it.
Well, I've experienced that firsthand with him. Dylan's got so many different things going on that when I am able to convince him to go work out with me, the thing that always blows me away is that, I work out on a pretty consistent basis, and it does not seem to matter what I do or how many sets, how many reps, how intense we go, Dylan doesn't stop. And it's mind-boggling to me. It's ironic because to a certain degree there's a way that you could argue that's bad for him to be doing that to himself, and for me to be doing that to him and pushing in that way. But it's just one of those things where, like, the workout that I consider to be decent workout physically beats the crap out of Dylan, but mentally he's good, he's calm, he's cool, he's collected, and that's where we're very different in that aspect. I can honestly tell you that my mental toughness isn't at the same level that Dylan's is at, but at the same time I can tell you that physically I'm not at the same level Dylan's at either. He's not able to keep up, a lot of times with stuff, which is, it's just different. It's the things that we've practiced, it's the things that we've, focused on. Mm-hmm. And I always thought of physicality in a much different way. To me, it was, I wanted to see if I was able to do it. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with mentally being able to keep up. It had nothing to do with that. It was, I was the kid that in basketball and football, doing sprints, doing ladder drills, like, if I didn't finish first, I wanted to do them again. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about whether or not it was difficult. It was about the competitive nature for me. Yep. So to me, it's always been about the physical challenge and not the mental challenge or the emotional challenge. Again, something that I've tried to work on in the last couple of years and focus on more and more.
Yeah. The interesting thing about what you said is, like, thinking, for me, my mindset's always kind of pushed towards the long run and being efficient, and I think that's come from, I think the military has really kind of brought that out of me, especially being infantry. It kind of narrows my focus on, like, do I want to walk, 18 miles in a zigzag to get to a point where I could walk a straight line and get there in 12 miles?
Sure.
Just as a very crude understanding of it, versus, like, the physical nature. Like, I've seen guys that are just so physically fit, they don't think about any other option, they just do it, because there's I'm not going to go to the extreme in saying there's two types of people out there, right. but generally you can see different attitudes in terms of how this plays out, of, like, emotional toughness versus physical toughness.
Sure.
And it's really interesting to see that mindset of, like, for me, especially with, like, the knee injuries that I've had, I've taken things like, it's better to be smart than, do things. What's the phrase of doing things smart versus
working smarter, not harder.
Work smarter, not harder. And I've taken that to a new level with a lot of the things that I've done.
Right.
It's always been like
right.
something in my life, but having been injured as many times as I have now, I take that to a new level.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not that I'm lazy. I just try and make things happen without using as much strength, so I have more of it later on.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if, again,
there's positives and negatives to that. I'd be more of the mindset of, I'd be more of the mindset of if you keep saving that energy, you're never going to have the energy to put out when the real thing, when shit really hits the fan. But at the same token, you look at me and it's one of those things where it's like, dude, you got up and did 2 workouts today. You got up and did one in the morning, you're going to go do one later tonight, and you're exhausted. Can you really sustain going after your goals, going after your passions with doing that? Fortunately for me, a lot of my goals and passions revolve around fitness and living an active lifestyle. But it's 2 sides of the same coin. Really, it's we talked about we talked about balance before with the emotional part of it. There's also balance with the physical part of it. Yeah. And I think there's times where I find the extreme one way and you find the extreme the other way. Where it's
certainly.
Yeah, there's times where and I've had to learn how to step back from that. Yeah. Just the other day, I was up late the night before. I was didn't get my sleep, and I need my sleep. I'm one of those people. I can handle a couple days with a little less sleep than normal, but after a couple days, I start to get a little on edge, a little hard to be around. So I had this bad night's sleep. I went into the weight room, started my workout program, and got 2 lifts in, and just went, what, this isn't working for me. Like, this isn't right. And old Carrie 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, would have just said screw it and just kept pushing through it. Been frustrated the whole time because the lifts weren't as easy as they should be, all that kind of stuff. And I stepped away. I went home. I allowed myself to have a relaxing evening, get my stuff together, get ready for the next day, and get to bed early. And it put me back a day in my my programming and my training, but the next day that workout was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And that for me is finding where I've found where that extreme is, and I've been able to kind of back off from that, a little bit. And it's balanced, but it's also pushing the extremes to figure out where your extremes are at, Right. Knowing where to go, which way you don't want to be. Right. A lot of times you can't figure out where that is until you've been there. Exactly. Unfortunately. And it works both ways, whether it's emotional or whether it's physical. I think we can both honestly say that there's been emotional times in our lives that we're as extreme as it gets, and we probably compounded that issue to make it worse. And finding that extreme, whether good or bad, up or down, is what's going to teach you how to not necessarily always keep an even keel, but teach you the tricks to get back to that even spot. When you do get a spike or a low in it, being able to get back to that level again is the key. Too many people focus on trying to live their lives extremely balanced, extremely even keel, extremely, whatever, thinking that that's the perfect thing. And the more and more that I'm experiencing these things, it's not about living even keel. It's about getting yourself back to even and being okay with the fact that there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be, and there's going to be good things that happen too, but you've got to come back to that even keel every time. Yeah,
it's understanding how to get to the highs and how to continue working for the highs, but also when the lows hit, you're able to push through them and get back to the even keel.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Very much agreed. And that's actually a great place to take a break. So, catch you in a few minutes.
Health, he's clearly got it under control.
I have everything under control.
All right, sorry about that break, everyone. So now that we're back, what we're going to kind of do is go back and forth questioning each other because, like we talked about before, Dylan's definitely more secure and has a good support system set up for his emotional health. I myself is a little more secure and have a good support system when it comes to the physical health. So we're going to kind of go back and forth and just kind of ask questions, discuss with each other what we did to create those systems. So start out with Dylan. What was it? A person? Was it experiences? What was the thing that kind of got you on the path? I mean, like that first thing that got you on the path of saying, this is what it's going to be that's going to get me emotionally to a place that I can control, and not necessarily control, but I can live with and learn how to get back to my emotional stability.
Yeah. I would say it started, honestly, it started a long time ago, back when I was a kid. I had a lot of rough things happen to me in my childhood. So the emotional toughness, kind of like what I was saying last episode, is like the emotional toughness kind of came from just the amount of experiences that I had as a kid. It just kind of, it just hammers you enough, and you learn how to adapt and survive.
Sure.
How I built those back in the day, I honestly don't really know.
Right. Okay.
It literally became kind of the thing where, like, I can tell you that, when I got emotional, that's what I did. I retreated, just like you were saying. I retreated, but I know for a fact that what changed my behavior beyond that was my family. My sister and my mom were just unbelievable resources for me.
Right.
Whether I talked to them or not, whenever I was emotional, whenever I was dealing with something that was far beyond my, beyond like a 6, 7, 8-year-old's ability to control or understand, they were there. One or the other. My sister or my mom were there for me. Whether they had an answer for me or not, it didn't matter because they were there. And that's arguably, that is one of the biggest, I think, the most important things that you can have as a person, is someone that's literally just there for you.
Yeah.
If it's nothing else than just being an ear to listen to what you have to say, or to just hold you up whenever you're feeling the lows of life hitting you. And kind of what Carrie was talking about last episode, like, you can't get rid of me. It's because I was shown at a young age that
right.
if you weren't there, what could happen is very bad things. What I never do is I never leave it to chance that people are going to figure it out on their own. I make sure that everything that I do, I set people up for success.
Okay.
Because if I leave it to somebody, they may make a choice that is not the right one.
All right.
Whether it's right or wrong, I'm going to give you the knowledge that I have.
Okay, so say for example, we've got somebody listening that we kind of touched on this before. Somebody, we talked about this last episode. Somebody that's not getting that respect day in and day out. The compounding issue of they just keep being mistreated over and over again. How can somebody that's like that, and somebody that's at least cognizant of the fact that, like, I am emotionally unstable. I know I'm emotionally unstable, but they don't know what to do. They don't understand the next step in finding a way to get to that point. Do you have any insight as far as, like, what's the next step? What's the next thing that you can do to say, I'm going to get my emotional life under control. I'm going to get my health under control. I want to get to a point where I'm happy with myself, or at least at the very least content with the way things are going,
And you might actually laugh when I say this, but find the right community for that. And honestly, I think one of the best communities for starting to change your life, what I'm going to say, is fitness. Because, it seems like, look on Instagram, look on Facebook, the biggest personalities that are helping the most people are fitness people. If you want a support group, find a community. If you can't, if you have nothing else, if you can't work out, then you're going to have to find something else. But you need to look in different places. That's the biggest thing I would say, is that even if it's going to a support group, a lot of people go to Alcoholics Anonymous if they have alcohol related issues.
Right.
There are different support groups for different kinds of people. I'm sure there's veteran support groups, there's alcoholics, there's drugs, there's
right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Find people.
Go on Facebook. Find a running club in your area.
Exactly.
There are running clubs. There are CrossFit gyms if you want to. I'm not a big proponent of that, but things that, like you said, create a community. That makes a lot of sense.
Google's your best friend.
Google. Find a But anything.
You'll find, if you never search for it, you'll never find it.
And you know what? To kind of go off of that quick, it doesn't have to be physical.
Right.
It doesn't have to be. Like he's saying, find a community. If it's books, if it's video games, whatever it is, you know. If I had somebody come to me and say, you know, I just don't have any hobbies, I don't have any passions, I would say, you know, you just haven't looked for them then.
Right.
Because there's something out there for everybody to find a passion about, or at least find something that can at least intrigue them and keep their interest for a while.
Cool.
And once you find that thing, go find other people that share the same way,
exactly.
share the same feelings. You know, when you wouldn't know it to listen to us, but Dylan and I really don't share that many things in common. When you talk about what we find as passions, what we find as, you know, things that drive us and motivate us. But that's also one of the reasons why we do have that connection, is because we both understand that the other person has that type of drive and passion for whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, as important it is to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, it's just as important to surround yourself with people that are not like-minded. So, you know, if that community doesn't necessarily view the same way you do, that doesn't mean leave it.
Yeah.
You know, if they're accepting of you and they're accepting of the way that you talk and the way that your opinions are, stick around.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to show you some insight to things that you've never seen before. Probably more than people that are going to agree with you all the time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, mine and yours relationship is really based not necessarily on what hobbies that we actually connect with.
Right.
It's more of the fundamental understanding of how we connect to those hobbies.
Oh, right, right.
You know, I have such a drive and a passion for firearms and for people in general, and you really have such a drive and a passion for fitness, and how we do those is more or less exactly the same.
Right, they're the same thing. They're just going a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, you could take our outlines of how we deal with things and mesh them together, and they'd pretty much be the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I noticed with him from early on. I want to say it was the first or second year we were hanging out, and I think we were coming home from Noah's Ark. I'm pretty sure. And I mean, it's an hour and a half drive or so, and it was literally Dylan talking about the difference between MOA and MIL with scope. See, and I still don't completely understand it, but it's been 9-10 years since then. So, you know, it's one of those things where, like, it wasn't so much in that, like, I was learning from him for sure, and I still do when it comes to those aspects. But it was the fact that, like, listening to this guy talk about something he was so passionate about, listening to him talk about it and trying to teach me how to do it, and understanding that not only was he teaching me, but it was also another opportunity for him to continue to hone his skill when it came to teaching, when it came to instructing, when it came to that type of thing, when it pertained to that specific topic. You've got to be able to do that with somebody.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to show somebody that respect and that, you know, I'm going to express this to you, and you need to take it for what it is. If they don't, that's fine. Go find somebody else to express that to. Yeah. But that's where a lot of emotional health is going to come in. For me, that's where I always struggled. Was there were up and down times for me, and had Dylan had that same hour and a half lecture or whatever you want to call it in a car ride, at certain points in my life, I'd have told the guy to shut the hell up. I didn't want to hear about it because I just wanted to be quiet, because I wasn't emotionally ready for that type of thing. Yeah. And that's one of those things you got to be important. It's important to be cognizant of.
Be observant.
Yeah, be observant of your own behavior as well as others. When somebody's trying to express something to you, be aware of it. Allow them to express that to you and be receptive to it, whether you even understand what the hell they're talking about or not. Because I guarantee you there's going to be times it doesn't happen.
There's plenty of times he doesn't understand things.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, Dylan. But yeah, I get where you're going with that, and I think that's a good place to start. Is we evolved in society. We evolved with groups. People didn't purposefully go away from a group to live alone because they knew the support system there was better, with a group. Yeah. And we've got to stop acting like being alone is okay, because it's just not. Our minds are not made to handle that. They're just not. It's not the way it works.
5 years ago, I never would have guessed he would have just said what he just said.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. All I wanted was to be a loner.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say loner, but I didn't want that connection.
Right.
I didn't. It was something that I had to realize over years, many years, for sure.
And many experiences.
Yeah.
many experiences.
Which we will get into, I'm sure, in future episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to kind of play into what you were talking about before, the physical aspect of the community, when it pertains to creating physical health in your life, I think what's very important is we have a tendency. The first thing to focus on is we have a tendency when it comes to being physically healthy to compare.
Yes.
And if I were to warn you of anything when it comes to the physical style of your life or how you approach physicality and getting fit again or staying fit, is comparisons do not and will not work. Motivation is a fleeting emotion.
Yes.
It's a fleeting emotion. You can get motivated by that Instagram post or by that Facebook post that some fit person puts up there, but be aware that didn't happen in a matter of a couple of months.
Yeah.
Those things happen over years, and those things happen 99% of the time with some pretty amazing computer graphics. So we've got to be aware that when we're approaching this physical nature in our lives, trying to get fit, trying to get whatever it is, being aware that a lot of what you're seeing, one, isn't true. It just isn't true, and two, that you are not in competition with anybody.
Right.
You're really not. That's the hard part, because how many different physical activities are there that it's based around competition? It's just one of those. It's one of those things that we tend to get caught up in the society.
So, tell me this: what do you do to people are always seeking motivation. So I have my own way of dealing with things, and we've kind of already talked about like how I prepare myself emotionally. Obviously physical health doesn't come from just being physical, it comes from building it emotionally. So how do you build your determination, your long-term motivation for your physical health?
Well, there's a couple different things that help me. I think the number one thing is remembering that we all have insecurities. And what we've got to remember is, you look at anybody that's on, magazine covers or, Instagram or whatever it is. It's got all these it's this popularity contest, essentially. What you've got to remember is that person has as many or more insecurities as you have. There's a very prevalent issue in the fitness industry with people that are just simply not happy with themselves. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever spent any time around people like that, you will realize very quickly that these are some of the most depressed and just emotionally unstable people in the world. And we all look up to them. Mm-hmm. When it comes to physical health, we all go, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I want to be like." And trust me, you don't want to be like that. You want to be physically fit like they are, sure, but a lot of times they push it to an extreme that's just not okay. And in doing that and pushing to that extreme, they become so emotionally unhealthy that it just doesn't pair with each other. So the first thing I would say is just be aware of they have insecurities as well. And your insecurity about the way you look or the way you feel, your health when it pertains to your physical health, that insecurity might be tiny compared to what insecurities they have. So like I said before, the comparison thing just doesn't work. It doesn't work in motivating or in inspiring or anything like that, because what you're comparing yourself to is a person that has just as many flaws as you have. Mm-hmm. And to idealize them or to make them seem godlike is what's going to cause one of the biggest issues. The second thing for me is we get caught too many times in these fads or these trends when it comes to physical health. There's always a new diet. Every 6 months, there's some new diet that's coming out, and recently we've seen kind of a plethora of them in the last 2 or 3 years. Whether you're talking about the paleo diet, whether you're talking about veganism, whether you're talking about just being a vegetarian, the keto diet. You guys all remember the Angus diet, back when we were younger. There's been these crazy trends in fitness and people jumping on, and then right at the last second they jump off and the fad ends. For me, when it comes to being physically fit, when it comes to finding that motivation every day, it's change. It is going into the weight room, having a plan, executing that plan, or gym or whatever it is, but executing that plan, and when that plan is done, changing it. We too often we like our routines. Everybody likes the routine, and not to say there's anything wrong with the routine, but when it comes to physical fitness, at no point in our lives do we ever want to be the exact same person over and over again every single day. So why do the same workout over and over again every single day? Yeah. If we're not going to grow in our physical life, how do we expect ourselves to grow when it comes to our actual careers or our actual home life or anything like that? And just to kind of go into this a little bit deeper, when you think about the way that humans evolved, every day was not the same. So for us to think that we can go into the weight room, we can go on the track, we can go on the treadmill and do the same thing every single day and our body's going to respond to that, it just won't. And there's a lot of science out there that says that you need to be changing things up. You cannot do the same thing over and over again. And to me, that's the biggest way that I stay consistent and stay motivated. I don't really like to use the word motivated because, like we talked about, motivation is an emotion, and you're not going to be motivated every day. So have a plan. Have a plan. For me, it's 3 or 4 weeks. I'm going to focus on this aspect of my fitness. Once that's done, I force myself to change it. Because what happens is if I try to keep on that path and I don't get to where I want to get to, then that's when I failed, I didn't get what I wanted to get done happens type of thing. And then you kind of go down that path of, I screwed up again, I failed again, whatever it is. 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, but when you're done with that, change it. Do something different because that's what we thrive on. That's what we thrive on mentally. That's what we thrive on emotionally. And that's what we thrive on more than anything physically. It's amazing how all of those things correlate to where that's how I've kind of trained my mind and trained my emotions as well is through this physical fitness thing is, you know what? I've been doing this for a few weeks. I'm going to change it up completely. I'm going to do something different and we're going to be done. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. That's different stuff than what I've heard a lot before.
Sure. Right.
Well, that is about all we have time for, folks. So I think this was a great episode.
Yeah, I think it was another good one to kind of kick things off for us today. Keep things rolling, that kind of thing after our first episode. We look forward to you guys coming back and checking us out again.
Yeah.
For episode number 3.
Be relentless.
Have a good day, everybody.